Yeah, it definitely seems to me anyway that it's like this yearning of the soul to commune with the divine. And even like you said, like many, even that I've met, many atheists have been completely converted to, oh, yep, there's definitely a God after having like a really profound psychic. Not all, of course. I'm sure that some are probably rolling their eyes right now, but that's fine. uh, yeah, because like in the Immortality Key, you talk about how witches had a very important role, or shamans, or whatever you want to call them, which is of course prevalent in all these movies that we see today, especially Disney movies. What role did they play, and why were witches so important in culture, and why did they get repressed so much?
Well, that's the big question. The other question I can answer is just it's what shows up. Mm-hmm. When you study the Eleusinian mysteries, for example, the mysteries at Eleusis originally were restricted to women. It was only women who were allowed initiation. When you think about the mysteries of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and theater and ecstasy, the guy who precedes Jesus in many ways. By introducing wine into these mysteries. It was women. His main followers were women. They were called Maenads. And they were the ones who mixed the wine. It was also thought to be women, it was priestesses, we think, who mixed up that potion. And then going back, into the Bronze Age with the Egyptians and Sumerians, and then far before that in the Neolithic into the Paleolithic, we think that it was women who were typically involved in brewing these beers and mixing the wine. And it's the same thing you find in early Christianity. You find women recorded in some of the literature, even by the church fathers. It talks about women mixing wine. And if you go into the catacombs under Rome, like I did, you'll see frescoes of women mixing wine in some version of an early Eucharist. And, if you extrapolate that out, again, you find women being the repositories for traditional folk healing and sacred pharmacology, and these become the witches of the Middle Ages and Renaissance, the same witches who are hunted down. And I think it's, without overstating it, I think it's fair that part of the casualties of the Inquisition was the suppression of this traditional knowledge of plants and herbs and fungi. We lost that in the West. So when you ask me if I'm going to go to Mexico to try my sacrament for the first time, there's a reason you're asking that. It's because Gordon Wasson, who discovers psilocybin-containing mushrooms in the 1950s, went to Mexico. Mm-hmm. He didn't go to Italy. He didn't go to Greece to find those mushrooms. But the evidence suggests that very powerful tools were available in Greece and Italy in antiquity and throughout history until at some point, we lost it.
Yeah, mushrooms are an interesting one because they grow in virtually every country in the world. So they would have had to be around. I feel like every culture would have at least come across mushrooms in one way, shape, or form. It's hard to kind of, concrete that into scientific evidence, but it seems like it would. Like even in Australia, like every winter they just pop up everywhere. Like even in front of the libraries, police station. That's what's like really funny, that they just grow in public, especially close to civilization. Maybe they're trying to communicate to us or something. I don't know. But actually, I just want to go into like Jesus, because there's a lot of myths about Jesus. I feel like there's more different theories about Jesus than any religious figure that I can think of, right? Like you hear things like he never existed, that it was all parables and metaphors, or he represented Christ consciousness, or he was a mushroom, or these kind of things. Was he a real person that existed, that walked this earth?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. What do you believe?
I'm not sure what I believe. Okay. I'm not sure what I believe. For purposes of the book, I think it's important to start with the base that there was a human being named Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah. They had no J. They had no J in Greek.
Okay.
So I think there was a Jesus who lived and breathed and walked the earth and had these experiences, and whose gospel was recorded by these four relatively contradictory gospels that became part of the New Testament. There are other gospels out there. So I do think there was a historical Jesus, but the more you dig into it, I also do think that the one recorded in the New Testament is not the full picture. And I think that the Jesus recorded in some of the Gnostic literature, or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, or some of the extra biblical literature that we now have and can't very well ignore, like the Gospel of Thomas. I don't think that Jesus ought to be ignored, because I think that was a Jesus that did speak to some people, just like maybe these alternative Eucharists spoke to some people in antiquity, just like they do today. You know, the idea of a psychedelic Eucharist is not new. If you go down, or if I go up from where I am to Brazil and talk to the Santo Daime, they're using a psychedelic Eucharist in their version of the faith. So I think that there are all kinds of Jesus. Like you say, it's a Rorschach test. You know, you look at Jesus and you find the Jesus you want to see.
Why do you think Jesus of all figures is the most like has the most theories about it? Because I never hear about like people saying that like Buddha was a mushroom or Muhammad was a metaphor. It's always Jesus. It's just something that I've noticed.
I have one good answer for that.
What's that?
You know, you and I are pretty far away from each other right now, and you're in Australia.
Yes.
And so I'm in South America. Sometimes I'm in North America. But either way, you know, we're pretty far apart from each other. And yet you and I can probably agree on one thing. What year would you say it was?